right, here we go. Good evening and welcome to this special edition of Showtime TV. I'm your host, Omar Rashada. As you know, March is Women's History Month. And last week I did a program on women in the performing arts. And today I have a special program, Women in Activism, women who are fighting the cause, who are taking a stand, who ain't taking no stuff, and they ready. I got two special guests so far. I have Maria Beauchamp and I have Rachelle Wilson. Ladies, good evening and thank you for being a guest.
Thank you so much for having me on Showtime.
No problem. Anytime. So first, I want to, ladies, introduce themselves and let the viewing audience know who you are and what type of organization that you're currently involved with, or organizations that you're currently involved with. We'll start off with Rachelle.
Thank you. So, my name is Rachelle Wilson. I am the mother of a young man, well, he's now a man, who was incarcerated in 2010. And I am working on liberating him. And in the midst of that, I started an organization, a movement called Make Some Intelligent Noise, Social Justice and Prison Reform Movement. And so that's what I do. I'm a journalist. I'm an advocate.
Awesome. Maria?
Well, my name is Maria Beauchamp. And well, as far as activism work goes in Delaware, I started Delaware Fashion Week, and through Delaware Fashion Week, we use the platform to reach out to the communities and talk about social issues that impact us that people normally don't pay attention to. So through the arts, something that we like to call Activism, that's how we work.
Yes.
I'm also part of Network Delaware, and I am currently right now talking to you guys from Puerto Rico, and I am part of a new movement that became a political party. And as of today, we're the third political force in Puerto Rico in only 18 months. So that's pretty amazing. And I'm very proud of all the work that is being done.
Right. Yes. In order, when one gets involved in the social movement, it may be because of personal experience. It may be because of he or she, the way they was raised by their parents or grandparents or uncles, aunts, guardians, or they met others somewhere in the communities, so they became later conscious. So I want to ask you two ladies, at what point in your life were you started getting involved, or were you aware of social activities, social movements, social issues? Was it when you're growing up as children? Was you were teenagers? Were you adults? And who kind of influenced you to get involved in the movement? Let's start off with Maria.
So I actually have to go as far back as I was when I was a little girl. My grandfather always taught me like if I was an adult. He never really talked to me like a child. He was a veteran. He did a lot of work in the community when he moved to Connecticut. And as a Puerto Rican man, he felt that there was a lot of things that were just wrong. He was fair, light skin. My grandmother was dark skin, and they witnessed racism firsthand. So he just wanted to make sure that I knew what life was going to be like, whether it was in Puerto Rico or the United States. So I started very young to just be mindful of social issues. And in 5th grade in Puerto Rico, I started to voice my opinion and participate in different forums. But when I moved to Delaware, that was definitely when I really decided to take my activism to another level. I didn't know English. I was being made fun of. I was definitely an outsider, and it didn't feel good because I never experienced that before firsthand. I remember what my grandfather talked to me about, but it's not the same when someone talks to you about it than when you live it yourself. So I became the first student president to be a Hispanic female student president, and I won, barely knowing how to speak English. And just from there, I just took over as to all the work that needed to be done. So I have to say my grandfather was the first person that just really put that seed in there for me to do something more for the communities.
Yeah, awesome. All right, Rachelle.
I have to bravo and commend Maria. That's a very heartfelt and touching story of her beginnings as an advocate. And I just applaud you, sis. And so if I could tell my story, it would simply be, you know, I was a high school teacher. I was very happy being a high school teacher. I love my children. I love the children. So that was fine. I was happy. And then my son became incarcerated, and that changed my life. So after going through 29 different attorneys, and a host of other people who promised to help. I've had attorneys who stole my money and didn't do anything to help us. You know, I've been through it all. I decided that it was time to be proactive, that I was going to be the change that I wanted to see. And so I began my movement as an activist by getting to know the people, who is involved, who has the authority to make changes, and how can I work within that and to advocate for that. And so that's what I began to do. And as a journalist for 30 years, you know, I relied on what I knew. I took what I knew as a high school teacher and as a journalist. I put that together with my passion. And became an advocate and started my own movement. Now, not only am I still advocating for my son, Justin, who is actually, I'm titling him as the vice CEO of the MSIN movement. But, you know, I just feel that I'm advocating for others as well, for all of us across America.
Right, right. You know, when I was reading up on the history of social movements. For example, there's a movie that's in dedication of Fran Hampton in memory of the Black Panther Party. And as I, you know, I go on YouTube a lot, I research the Black Panther Party, and I come to find that women were always involved in the social movements. You have women like Elaine Brown, you have women like Angela Davis. Wow, and you got women today who are involved in making a change in their communities. So this is Women's History Month special. So I want each of you ladies just talk about the significance of women being involved in social movements. And then there are those who work behind the scenes as well. You know, we look at Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., you know, quite sure he had his wife, Miss Coretta Scott, you know, helping him doing paperwork and organizing. I remember in 1995, the Million Man March here locally, there were women who packed bag lunches. There were women who cheered us on as we were leaving the buses in Miller Road Shopping Center. So again, if each of you ladies want to start off with Rachelle, talk about the significance of women being involved in the social movement.
Well, that's a really loaded question, but I commend you on what you said. You know, it's absolutely true, and it does go, you know, even to our women of today. You know, but Harriet Tubman is one of my sheroes. I absolutely adore her, and then of course there's Trudy Haynes. You know, and Oprah Winfrey is another. I mean, these are the people who I consider to be sheroes and who I model to become more like. And so, but first and foremost, always my mother. My greatest influence has always been my mother, giving thanks and praise. But in the totality of it all, Omar, I think it's very important that we all recognize, if it were not for the woman, the natural woman, as I stated earlier, there would be no you and I. Every human being, the human life is created because of a woman. And so for that purpose alone, we have to be thankful and recognize the divine feminine in so much of our lives and within ourselves, each one of ourselves.
Maria?
Well, I think there's the part of history that also doesn't really talk about early on when women try to be involved and were quiet down or hidden away, or they would do all the heavy work and men would take credit. So it is important for the participation of women in social justice. But it's also important that we recognize that a lot of things that were done in the past that we think men did it was done by women. And sometimes up to this day, we still have people that just don't understand why it is important to highlight the difference between a man and a woman, and why it's important to recognize the suffering of women to be able to actually give back to their communities or be involved, get a job, be more than than someone that is going to carry babies, raise them, and just, you know, be there to do whatever the husband would like them to do. So I feel that as a woman, not only do I have what society likes to say maternity feelings, but we are very capable of doing everything that a man is capable of doing. And we are not emotional beings that cannot make a decision, because our emotions are always going to be there before rationality. So I feel that we can balance everything, and that with women carrying a voice that is strong enough, that could hold pain, that could separate emotions to make very good decisions, we can definitely do that. But we're not viewed the same as men. We get asked questions that men do not get asked when they're going to do any social work. So we have to recognize just all of the hard work that we've been through, and recognize the amazing woman that, despite of the obstacles, has said, you know what, I'm going to do this. Whether you are going to support it or not, I'm going to go for it. And no man or other woman is going to stop me.
You know, this on those same lines, we spoke about women not being recognized. It kind of echo that, because, you know, particularly in the African American community, when we talk about leaders who made a change in our communities, we always mention Dr. King, we mention Malcolm X, we might mention the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, the Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey, Noble Drew Ali, and others. But you had Harriet Tubman, you had so many other ladies. So I want to ask you two ladies, what can we do as a community to at least recognize the woman who helped make a change in our lives? And even today, as Rachelle was mentioning earlier, that women today are leading the fight in terms of justice, freedom, and equality. But sometimes, again, it kind of flows back to, well, we're looking at the males. We're looking at Minister Louis Farrakhan, for example, Al Sharpton, for example, the Reverend Jesse Jackson. So I can go on and on and on. So how do we change that? If it's possible that we can change it.
I think that what you're doing right now, it's a right step. You know, we have to give women a forum to be able to speak up. We also have to recognize that when a woman is being loud, she's not screaming and not trying to actually say something. We are being loud because we have something to say, and we need people to hear it. But we also need our male leaders to not be afraid to share the stage and recognize the work that we do as females, that women are capable of very much holding the mic, leading the march, and we could do it side by side. But there are spaces where it's still very hard for male leaders to say, hey, sister, get right on with me on this stage, and let's walk together. So we have to give more space for the woman to talk, but we have to also recognize the work that they're doing and trust us.
You have anything to add, Rachelle?
I think that Maria encapsulizes it wonderfully. And I just would dovetail by saying, you know, it is the strength of the woman. It's us women that need to identify our power and not give it away so easily, but to unite it. You know, we're only as strong as the weakest link. So if we, you know, recognize what our power and our authority is, because we are activists, we are fighters, we are mothers, we are caregivers, and we are, you know, we're so many things. We can be all of those things and still bring home the turkey bacon. So, you know, don't underestimate us. And I think it would be fabulous if we could really, really unite. I loved when we did the Million Woman March in I think it was 1996. Yes, I'm telling my age, but that was an amazing, amazing time. I'd love to see another one happen.
Right. You know, we mentioned a woman having a voice, and both of you ladies, you have a voice. Rachelle, you have a local radio show that comes on every Saturday. I believe at 1 o'clock. You follow Thomas, Yorkie D. And Maria, I know for a while you were doing a podcast. You were doing some interviewing. So if you ladies want to give the audience about how you got started with your voice in terms of the podcast and radio show. And, again, how can people listen to it? Or what's the station? And how do you feel being a woman, being able to voice your opinions and your ideas, and your solutions, and bringing on guests on your podcast? Rachelle, you can start first.
I think that, again, I'm going to give Maria all of the credit because she's really already nailed it. We want to be heard when we're screaming, or it sounds like we're screaming, and we're not. We just want to be heard. We need to be heard because we really do have something important and of relevance to say. And so if we feel that people aren't listening, then we've got to take it to another level. And as much as I was advocating, beating the streets, boots on ground, I really didn't feel like I was being heard, or that the people that were listening, some of them, I didn't think they were taking me seriously. So that's when I decided to really delve in and make the decision. And it was a sacrifice. I had to give up other parts of my life in order to take this journey. And it has encompassed sacrifices, but it has also taught me so much and helped me to gain so many healthy relationships with so many various different people. And that has been a learning experience that I would never, ever trade in.
Well, I want you to also, definitely talk about your radio show. What's the station? How did you come about having a radio show? And what are some of the topics that you got to discuss? Let's promote yourself a little bit.
So I'd love folks to chime into, obviously my Facebook page is Rachelle Wilson. I also have one called MSIN, Make Some Intelligent Noise. That's my entire brand for everything that I do, is social justice and prison reform. So you can tune into my Facebook on either of those platforms, or the station is WHGE 95.3 FM. I'm on YouTube. I'm also podcasting on Anchor and Spotify. And again, my name is everywhere, Rachelle Wilson. And of course now Justin Wilson. These two names will become, nationally known. I'm working towards them being nationally known. But for the most part, in just closing, I would say I do advocate for a decent humanitarian treatment inside of the prison. I ask that mothers would stand with me, that if there's necessary, if a need arises, that we need to stand unified together, the mothers of incarcerated loved ones, the wives, the sisters, the daughters. Yes, please stand with me, because together we're stronger. And if we have to march on the Capitol or march on the governor's office, God forbid we have to, but if we have to, then certainly we will. And I am not opposed to doing so if necessary.
Okay, so I mentioned that you come on every Saturday at 1 o'clock. What's the radio station?
The radio is 95.3 FM, WHGE, Saturdays at 1 o'clock. And there they'll find me on the station, as well as all of my social media platforms, as I've just mentioned.
Okay, so Maria, let's talk about some of the podcast shows that you did in the past. I'm not sure if you still do it today. If so, just inform the audience.
Yeah, so today I participate a lot with Highlands Bunker. So they have a podcast, and I'm constantly invited in as a guest speaker, and I truly appreciate it, since it does give me a way to talk about not only what's happening in Delaware, but also what happens in Puerto Rico. I think it's very important to be able to educate everyone in political topics that really affect the people that we live nearby. In Delaware, we have neighbors that have family in Puerto Rico. So it is very important for us to be able to send that message across, not just keep it right in one space. But before that, I was doing the lives to talk with all of the candidates that were running. We started in the 2016 election year, and then I held the very first Hispanic debate, which I was sort of surprised that it was the first one. I didn't know that we were going to be making history with that. I thought that maybe someone forgot to do it and we needed the space to do it. So I did it, and then found out It's the first time in history they do that. And I was happy, but I was also disappointed that we waited so long to give the Hispanic community an opportunity to be able to learn about the candidates that they could choose from, the people that make the decisions on how we live. So that's really one of the reasons why I started my lives. And I wanted to give others an opportunity to hear from the people that were asking for their votes and ask those very difficult questions that a lot of people don't like to ask, and put everyone in that position where you have to tell us what you're going to do, and we're going to hold you accountable. So, and I still do that. I still hold elected officials accountable, and whenever I need to go live and talk about it, I do so.
Right, right. And Rachelle, you also interviewed some political candidates this last election, right? What was the experience like?
Yes, actually, it was my first year getting involved in that. It's called the Political Power Hour. And believe it or not, it's interesting you mention it because I will be restarting that tomorrow evening on Wednesday. So Wednesdays at 7 o'clock, I will be continuing the Political Power Hour, but I'm adding a twist to it. As Maria already mentioned, holding our political, our public servants accountable is very important. And but I also want to be able to show people the side of them that is just human. So my twist is just going to be a little bit more personable on this go round.
Okay. Earlier, the term demonstrations was mentioned, and usually when you're involved in social movements, there's demonstrations, there's protests, there's rallies, and there are those who may look from the outside and say, those protests, they don't work. They're not effective. I'm not going to sit there and waste my time and holding some sign and marching up and down some street, hooping and hollering. They don't work. It's ineffective. I want to ask both of you, how do you feel about that? What's your response to someone who says that protests, demonstrations, and rallies are pretty much useless?
I've been marching and protesting for a very young age, since I was in elementary school. I think one of my first huge protests was when we started the Keep Butts Generations with the American Lung Association. I served as their board president, and we were trying to pass the non-smoking law. So we were putting a lot of pressure into the federal building in Washington, D.C. We made fake body bags to demonstrate how secondhand smoking affects people. And we did a lot of marching, and we were young. And it was hard to take us serious because we were young. How can young people that cannot vote are going to tell us what to do? But we did it, and we were able to pass a law, and that was effective. So that was my first real taste of, if you are consistent, you're organized, you educate, and you mobilize the people, you're going to see results. Fast forward to 2019, summer in Puerto Rico. That was all over the news internationally. We took down a governor because we protested every single day, all summer long. And I was very happy to be there and see it with my eyes. Like, we're protesting creatively, we're doing all kinds of different things. What is going to be the result? And when the governor resigned, I cried. I was very emotional, because you do question yourself. You wonder, is this worth it? What is the long lasting impact that I'm going to have with this work that I'm doing? The police goes after you. They try to hurt you. There's all kinds of things going on. And am I putting my life at risk worth it? Am I putting my freedom at risk worth it? And it is. I always say that it is. Protesting, it's how a lot of people got everything done. If it wasn't for protesting so women could vote, we wouldn't be able to vote, right? If we didn't have our marches during the civil rights movement, well, and we still have so much more work left to do when it comes to that topic, but the results are there. That you're always going to have people trying to manipulate the narrative and tell in the media a different story to sort of take attention away from what really matters. That is always going to happen. Is a protest going to be perfect? No, it's never going to be perfect. But what we have to always concentrate on is, are we organizing, are we educating, and are we mobilizing the people so we could see results?
All right. Right, Rachelle, you want to chime in?
I would just say, again, like, I think that's an excellent answer. And I think that when I think of protests, I think of Martin Luther King, I think of Malcolm X. These are the people that are just right in my head here. And I think of the Edmund Pettus Bridge. So, you know, I recognize the strength of unity and being able to march and protest together to achieve the goals. And that is how many of the goals have been achieved, Showtime. But I believe it's important to remember that there is another component to that. Along with all the marches and protests that both Malcolm X did, Martin Luther King, Nelson Mandela, Winnie Mandela, through all of the protests, in between that, there were conversations, political backroom, backdoor conversations. And so with all of our protesting, we must not forget the importance of being able to sit at the table and talk to the people that can make these changes and actually advocate for those changes to be made. But you cannot do that if you are outside protesting. You have to have a seat at the table. And so I just want to remember, I want all of your audience to remember that that is also a very important piece, a component of all of the change and reform that we want to see done. When Malcolm and Martin were not protesting, they were sitting at the table having conversations. And we know that historically.
Right. You know, speaking of politics, you know, you have the vice president was the first woman of color who sits in Vice President Kamala Harris. You have Maxine Waters. You have those women who are working within the system to make a change. So I want to ask both of you ladies, have any of you, or will any of you consider running for political office? It's real quiet now.
Let me take this one, Omar. I have to tell you, you know, God bless every woman that throws her hat into the ring, you know, bravo, you know, but for me, that's not, I don't believe that's my journey. You know, people have talked to me about something like that. There have been whispers in my ear, but honestly, my fire, my passion, I would be like the Tasmanian devil in some political office. I would whirlwind through that place, making changes. So I really don't think that politics is for me. But in a lot of ways, the word public servant, which is what our politicians do, or what they're elected to do, is be our public servants. I feel that my movement, Make Some Intelligent Noise, is actually that, serving the public. Only it is from those that are incarcerated, the families of those that are incarcerated, that have incarcerated loved ones. You know, that's kind of where I serve the public, or my movement serves the public. You know, as much as I advocate for my son, I am advocating for others. And I think that's important karma.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, so I'm very involved in politics, both in Delaware and in Puerto Rico. It's part of the movements that I'm involved with. And as of this moment, what I truly have enjoyed is just looking for leaders in the community and help them just bring out their entire leadership so they could take office and be able to open doors and change the system a little bit. I do feel that the system needs to change. And I feel that we have to seek out the right people, empower them, organize them, and then be able to support them in their journey. So that is what I'm concentrating on right now. And you never know what the future holds. For me, I'm not gonna say, no, I'm not gonna do it, or yes, I'm going to do it. I have had sit downs in Delaware about it, and I had sit downs in Puerto Rico about it. But I have said what I want to work on right now is just really being able to give the training to the people that you could say, this person is a leader and they don't know it, right? They've been working in the community, they're a strong voice. They could really see the whole picture, not just one side of the picture. So let's make sure that we give them all the right tools to bring them their entire self out, and then support them. So, and I'm talking about political campaigns like TC, Senator Lockman. She's part of the Network Delaware that at one point we were so excited to be able to support her. Carrie Evelyn Harris, it's another person that I have worked in her campaign, but it all started after Yin Young and the work that we did with him. So, and after that, I have had many other campaigns that I work with, and I truly enjoy it. And you truly do leave a part of you in each campaign. And if you work with the right people that have the right agenda to serve the public, not to do, we do politics every day. It's just that the word politics is just, it's a bad sound right now because it's been done so wrong for so long that people don't understand that what they need is public servants, that they need people ready to serve the communities, not a small group of the community, not people with money that need help. So yeah, I don't know. I think that if you are angry enough that things are not changing for the good, sometimes you need to put yourself in there and do the work.
Right. Well, I want to stay with you for a moment. The issues that you've been fighting for in Puerto Rico versus the issues in Delaware, are they the same? Are they similar? Or are they completely different?
So there's a lot of similarities. There's difference in culture. There's difference in how we approach things, but we're still fighting for women's rights. We're fighting for equal, better pay. We're fighting for health care. We are fighting to keep our jobs. We're fighting to stop giving big companies, the corporate world, all the benefits and take it from the little people. We're fighting for better use of technology, that if our kids are going to school virtually, that they should have all the tools available so they could be successful in school. We have that fight in Delaware and we have that fight here in Puerto Rico. For during COVID, you know, we're fighting for the vaccines there. Can we provide free testing? So it is all pretty much the same. It's just a little different what the culture approaches things. But yeah, it's very similar. So for me, it's I have two homes. I have the home that I was born in and the root, everything that was planted in my heart to be the human that I am today. And I have my second home that welcomed me and continue to give me an education, continue to empower me and mentor me. So I cannot say that, oh, I'm only going to help one and not the other. After Hurricane Maria, I just felt like I have to go home. I have to go back to my first home, and I have to share all that I learned in Delaware, and also all that I learned in Puerto Rico before I left to Delaware, and do more because I just couldn't watch.
Okay, you know, Rachelle, you know, when we think about the prison issues, we often focus on the men's prison, Young's Correctional Center, Georgetown, Smyrna, but in Baylor's prison, the female prison located in Newcastle, Delaware, has people come to you and express concerns they have about the prison system in Newcastle, Delaware, Baylor's prison system?
Well, I just recently started volunteering over at the DHSS Maryland Avenue Center with returning citizens. And so as it stands, there are about 15 women that I am attempting to assist. They're just coming home. They're trying to get back with their children and all sorts of things. So yeah, we have conversations, and of course they share things with me. You know, I think it's best to have female guards at female prisons, or at least to make sure if we're going to have male guards at female prisons, that they are accounted for at all times. And I think I'll say it that way, just because rather than go into deep details. But, you know, there are definitely some cruelties that take place in all prisons, Omar. I mean, America set prisons up to be a place of punishment. It's a punitive, you know, time out in the corner, you know, but somewhere along the line, someone or some ones, plural, you know, decided to make money off of it. to turn it into gain. And by doing that, it became more punitive. So we realize that it's not, you know, the hotel soiree, right? But it still should be humanitarian and decent, and you know, and it's just really not. Now, Delaware is doing better in some of the men's prisons, the male prisons, but we still, as already has been said, we have a long way to go, you know, but I'm just proud that Delaware is making change. It is bringing about reform. If I could put a plug in, for, you know, Senator Darius Brown, I have to say, as well as Senator Tizzy Lockman, House Representative Melissa Minor Brown, House Representative Pinckney, and the list would just go on. These are people who are working to create change. And I know that firsthand. So, you know, being privy to seeing that they are working to bring about change and racial equality to our justice systems, you know, it gives me hope. It gives me hope. And so I will continue to advocate because I see that it is working. The wheel is turning slow, but it is turning. And so, yeah, there are definitely still some issues that have to be addressed inside of both our male and female prisons. Absolutely.
You know, for the last several shows, I've been doing scenarios. So this scenario popped in my head prior to the show. So let me give it to you. You have two people. One's a male and a female. The male, his name is Robert. Robert fights for social justice. He's out there protesting. He's leading demonstrations. He's considered strong. He's considered powerful. He has many people behind him. He gets all kind of accolades. Gets news articles in Facebook, the newspaper, Action News, et cetera, et cetera. He's seen as a strong man and a quote unquote warrior. You have Christine. She's also fighting for social justice. And she's fighting for equality for men, women, people of color, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. When she speaks her mind. She's elegant, she's educated. But here's the difference. There are those who may see her as being loud. There may be those who see her as being rude. There are those who see her as having an attitude and maybe can consider her a word starts with a B. This is all common, all too common in our communities where the man is seen as strong-willed, powerful. He's taking a stand. Go ahead, man, be strong. And if the woman speaks up, it's different. It's the total opposite. I had to ask that question because, you know, when things pop in my mind, I just got to ask the question. This is Women's History Month, so let's speak on it.
Yes, it is. And I would say that for far too long, and when I say that, I mean, I'm going all the way back to the days of our Bibles and Torahs being written. If you look at these holy books and since those books, you will see that there is a patriarchal society, a male dominance in all of that. And yet, if we really delve deeply and look more closely through the microscopic glass, we'll see that through it all, it has been women somewhere in the background or in the forefront, but it was the males who took the dominance of the power and the credit, and even to today, in 2021, thousands of years later, men are still considered as a dominant force. However, I put a comma there, not a period, simply because women are now being heard. We are stepping to the forefront, and because we're coming so boldly, so transparently, so genuine and sincere in our advocacy for whatever it is that we're advocating for or that we want to activate, you know, for change. Whatever it is, we are coming forth boldly to the fact that we can no longer be ignored. Showtime, we can no longer be ignored. Our voices are finally being heard, and giving thanks to brothers like yourself who will pay homage to the great queens of all nationalities. But in particular, I have to say to my brown and my golden queens, because this world is built upon our shoulders.
Yeah. So look, I see it, I live it. It's something that sometimes men feel that they could talk over you, or they could talk and not look at you, not address you. You could be in a meeting and say something and it was disregarded. And a guy says the same thing you said, just maybe change a few words. And that was the best idea ever. Let's do that. And you're like, wait, I said that. Like, how, what? So you have to not be intimidated and just call it for what it is, and let people know at the table, I said that. So why are you so uncomfortable when it came out of my lips? And it is okay to come out of his lips. Not everyone that sits at the table doing activism work sometimes is aware of what society has taught us. Sometimes our behavior is unconscious behavior. We automatically do something. So sometimes people are aware, but sometimes they're not. So you have to find out, are you aware of how you're acting? Are you aware that you are underestimating me? That you are shutting me down because you feel that the man can do it better? And if the person generally is not aware, you could educate them on the matter. And if they are aware, then you could talk about it and let's, fix this and let's change it. So it is very common. But just like Rachelle said, we are doing better and we are improving. The generations are starting to be more vocal about what is wrong. Social media, technology has helped us to communicate in different ways, to share news a lot faster. And if someone doesn't want to give you a space in their platform, you create your own. So I think because of those things, we are able to just be a little more vocal. But that hasn't changed how we get treated when we are trying to say something or organize it.
Being involved in an organization, being involved in the movement, it's not always easy. When you see issues out there, you try to make a change. You may have a rally, you're passing flyers out, you're making phone calls, you're sending invites on social media. The event comes, 2 people show up. Then you have those who sit back and criticize you for what you're doing and not doing anything themselves. You have those who may disagree with what your tactics, and if they think their tactics is the correct way. And they may put you on blast on social media. I've seen people talk about other people who are leading the movement on social media. I don't think that's right. People are doing what they think is best. So how are you able to overcome the criticisms, the lack of support, the backbiting? And sometimes it could come from your own family. Cousin so-and-so maybe talking about so-and-so. You see what she's doing out there? What's she doing out there? She just sit down and work and do this, that, and other. That could come from your family. I've seen that as well. But, like I said, being involved in the struggle is not easy. So how are you 2 able to withstand the negativity and the criticism and just keep it moving? Anybody can go first.
Well, I think that early on, after being yelled all kinds of things because you don't look like the people around you, or you don't speak like them, or they can't understand you, you start to build what we call thick skin, in a way. And it doesn't mean that it doesn't bother us. It bothers me. I had very successful events that have sold out and everyone has come, and I had events like you mentioned, 2, 3 people show up. But for me, being consistent and still giving it my all, whether it was one person that I spoke to or 1,000 people that I spoke to, making sure that I don't lose myself, that I stay true to my purpose, that I stay humble, and remind people to actually still hold me accountable. I'm not an elected official, but I am out there representing communities. I am out there being a voice for others. So I have to be held accountable. And I'm okay when people have constructive criticism. I think constructive criticism can help us evolve and do better and keep us on our toes. What I don't agree with is putting someone down because you don't like their idea or the way of doing things, or just flat out because you wanted to do it yourself. Every single human has their own potential and their own purposes. Sometimes we just need direction on how to find it. And I love sharing my story. I love empowering people and helping them find their purpose and helping them find their own voice, because we all, every single one of us, have a very interesting story to tell, that it could be of teaching for many others, right? But we have to do that the proper way. Social media has been good, but also bad, because everyone can be a bully behind a computer, and they feel that they could say whatever they want to say, and that it's not going to make you cry, that it's not going to hurt your feelings. But you have to move on. And the one other thing that I want to talk about is because of my medical condition, for a lot of people, it was very hard to see me still be very active and give to my community, whether they will see me in a wheelchair, because sometimes I'm on my wheelchair and I cannot walk, or I was walking. That was hard for people to grasp. So if you're this sick and this medical condition that you have can actually take your walking abilities away, how come you're still out there doing activism? How come you're still out there doing something? I refuse to be people's expectations or what is a perception. Right. This world is constructed by perception. I am who I am, and I live to my full potential and purpose. And what moves me after being mom, right? Mom is my number one thing that moves me, is actually being able to give back to my community, to empower others. And through my story, have them feel like my story is worth telling too. She's telling her story. She's not holding back. So I want to tell my story, and I'm not going to hold back.
All right. Excellent. Excellent. Rachelle?
Yes, that really was excellent. You touched so many different points with that, Maria. Thank you again for bringing those subjects to light. I think for me personally, Omar, again, I have to dovetail in some areas. I see that Maria and I really probably should get together and hang out or talk a little bit more. Maybe I'll have you on the show. But I think, for me, I'm kind of a softie, but I'm fire. So when you hurt my feelings, and God knows people have done that since I've been in this movement in so many different variations, and it always blindsided me. Like I didn't expect that was coming from that particular direction, so yeah, it hurts my feelings, and I don't like it. So but my fire kicks in, my passion kicks in, and so I'm going to do pretty much what I've always done. I'm going to use that hurt and that pain or that disappointment or that anger, and I'm going to turn it into my movement. It's just going to make me better, and it's just going to make me more passionate, more fire, and more, a louder voice and a better advocate to get out there and say what I have to say. So yeah, it's been a struggle. As I stated earlier in our interview, I've had to make some very enormous sacrifices of my life, just changing my whole life as a result of becoming this strong woman in a movement. But I think, unlike self-esteem or any of those kinds of things, for me, what pushes me is I don't like the wrongness of it. And I know there's a better English word than that, but I don't like the injustice of it, the wrongness of the things that I now see. As a high school teacher, I didn't see it. I was just living my life with my students. But when they took my son, they changed the game, and they messed with the mama bear. And, he's my only child. He's the only child that I have. And you're going to take him and say he's got to be away from me for 25 years? Like that's not acceptable. You know what I mean? And so, I think that how I deal with it is simply turning the hurt, the disappointment, the anger, whatever the emotions are, turning that into my fight, into my movement, to be stronger, to be better, to be, you know, to just kind of be better. I don't like the wrongness of what some people do.
Right, right. Who are some of the women in history, maybe past or present, that you admire, whom has taken a stand of justice and equality? Who are these women that you admire? I mean, you just name a couple of them. You might got like 1,000, but you know, let's start off with Rachelle. Who are the women that you admire most that's involved in social movements?
Well, I'll never get tired of repeating the name again and again, a million times. Harriet Tubman, Araminta Ross, you know, Minty for short. You know, I had the experience of touching the earth in a tour. I went on a tour and I touched the earth and saw the water that she ran from. And it just did something to me spiritually. So, you know, that is one of my sheroes. And again, I have to say Oprah Winfrey for her excellence, Black excellence in journalism. She had a Jewish radio or television station tell her that she was too Black and too ugly and she would never make it as a journalist. And now we have the Oprah, you know, the OWN network, and like bravo to Oprah Winfrey. Like she took her hurt and pain and turned it into her passion and her movement. So she's a shero for me. And there are many, many others. You know, I commend Kamala Harris. I can't say I agree 1,000% with all of her politics, you know, her perspectives on politics. But as a woman of color, a colored woman, a Black woman, a brown woman, I am proud of her achievement. And yes, there are thousands of other names. Again, I'll just stick with Harriet Tubman, Oprah Winfrey, Trudy Haynes, my mother, you know, Kamala Harris, oh my God, Michelle Obama. Like, I just want to hug her. I love her, Michelle Obama. And the list just goes on. Beautiful, beautiful women of color and of all nationalities.
Maria?
So, you know, like you said, we could pick so many, but I have two people that I want to mention. Mother Teresa, when I was young, was one of the first women that I really study a lot about and read a lot. I think from her, what I took and continue to look for is the wisdom and the patience to be able to deal with humanity, and also to search beyond what we see, to incorporate our feelings. And I feel also that for me, it has been hard to, like, people sometimes ask me, like, what is your one cause? But I don't have one cause. For me, all that affects humanity is something that we need to deal with, and we deal with it differently. So Mother Teresa. And currently, actually, for International Women's Day, I dedicated my post to Ana Irma Rivera Lacen. She is the first Black Puerto Rican, openly lesbian president of the College of Lawyers here in Puerto Rico. She just became the first senator that is openly lesbian to be elected to office. And I had the privilege to work her campaign. She is the president of our movement. So I get to work with her daily. She's my colleague. But there's so much history with Ana Irma. And I truly love this past almost 2 years I've been working together, all that I have absorbed. She has been a feminist and activist since she was 13, 14 years old, have made a lot of history in Puerto Rico. And it's one of the most humble souls I ever met, and continually teaches me what it is to be a woman that is hard, a woman of color, whose sexual orientation gets questioned constantly, and be strong and be loud and take a lead. So that's why I have to say that she's one of these women that I'm very proud to learn about and also call my mentor.
Right. Right. I want to ask you two ladies separate questions. Rhea, you just mentioned movement. And that's the thing about when you're dealing with social justice type movements, we understand we have to make sure that it is a movement and not a moment, and not a moment, because there are those who may do something temporarily, just for about a week or so, and after that, it's gone. But we talk about a movement, you're talking about years and years and years. So just to talk about the significance of, when we're serious, we want to get involved, making this a movement and not a moment.
So for me, it's very important that we don't do things when it's just trending. And that could also be frustrating when you're an activist that you have been working for many years on different topics, and you can see this moment where something is trending and then everyone wants to sort of jump on it and confuse the moments with the movement. And it helps sometimes your cause, but sometimes it doesn't. It could actually take away from your cause. Because if you have people that just jump in when it's trending and are not fully educated on the topics that you've been working on the project that you want to put forward, it could actually take it steps back. So I always speak on about that, make sure that you do things when no one is watching, and make sure that you do things when it's not trending. Because when no one is watching and it's not trending, you get a lot of work done and your movement can grow. But you are right, movements is a commitment for a long time. And there is that process of Network Delaware, for example, that process of we got out of Eugene Young's campaign. Now what is the next step? We have all these people gather around a person because we believe in the cause. We believe in everything that needed to be done. And we almost won. So how can we keep this going? And Network Delaware started in the living room with a few of us. And then it continued to grow into the movement that it is today. One that I'm very comfortable saying Delaware is doing so well, I could go to Puerto Rico and be part of another movement and continue to grow that as I'm still part of Network Delaware. But it is understanding that we have to make a lifelong commitment. And sometimes that doesn't mean that you're always going to be in that movement. With that lifelong commitment, it just means that you have a commitment with the cause and that you are always going to be available to speak on it.
And Rachelle, I want to take us back, I believe the summer, maybe last year or year before. I can't remember when they had the George Floyd protests, particularly in Rodney Square. During the daytime, it was a protest in Rodney Square, a little march. It was peaceful. Several hours later, downtown Wilmington, Market Street Mall, whoo, it was fire. It was fire. Talk about the significance of when we have peaceful protests and demonstrations, when we're fighting for the cause, that people just don't come and destroy businesses and riot and stuff like that. Talk about it, whatever you want to say.
So, okay, in my very first thinking, because I was there, and I guess you wanted, from a reporter's perspective, I covered the story. Okay. So I was there, Facebook Live, watching and looking at everything that's happening all around me. Everyone is doing what they're doing. And I thought to myself, oh my God, this is terrible. Like, how can you do this? This is not what Martin Luther King would have done. This is not even Malcolm X wouldn't have, done this kind of thing. Like, what are you guys doing? You're destroying businesses that have been in our community for years. And many of them, some of them at least, are give back to the community businesses. And that was my first thinking, Omar. And then I really sat back and I contemplated, this is a new generation. And, what happened to George Floyd that 8 minutes and 46 seconds that Derek Chauvin had his knee on his neck changed the world. And our young people, this was their way of expressing their frustration at the racial injustices that have perpetuated for far too long. And they're just, as Mama would say, sick and tired of being sick and tired of the same old him and haw, justice system. And so after I really thought about it, I have to say, The businesses are insured. They're going to get their money back. They're going to have all of their merchandise will be, compensated for. It was a statement. It was a bold and very authentic statement from young people. Yes, it seemed like it was a horrible thing to do, stealing, shoes and socks and clothes and radios and whatever they could get a hold of. But it was the young people. They were making a bold statement that they are sick and tired of being sick and tired of the same old nonsense in the American courtrooms. The same old American judges, the types of judges that we historically know, sit on the bench. They're tired of it. And quite honestly, Showtime, even though I'm an old fogey, I'm kind of fed up with it my damn self. I've really had enough of this wheel turning, the old Jim Crow, the old, congressional 1950s Congress. Like it's time to do away with it. So it was a statement, and those insurance companies will reimburse those businesses for the damages that were done.
Rachelle, I can't really agree with the notion that everyone went down there saying it was a statement, because I think some people just went down there just to take stuff. I just can't see them being. I mean, this happened not only in Delaware, but in other cities. Sometimes when you have, police brutality events, you have those who are protesting, and these are the ones who I think are making a statement, sick and tired. And people going in, robbing things for the opportunities, I can't really see them on being on the same level.
Now, there's no doubt, Omar, there were some opportunists in the crowd. Yeah, there were some folks who just came out from like roaches out of the woodworks because they saw an opportunity to get some sneakers or some radios or whatever else may have been taken. But I think ultimately it started as young people saying, we're fed up. And we're going to show you through our frustrations, we're going to take it out on Wilmington. We're going to cost Wilmington, Delaware money in order to show you that we are sick and tired. We are rebelling. We are revolting against what, George Floyd and everything else. The knee has been on the Black man's neck for over 400 years, Omar. And I don't have to tell you about that. You are a brother. Okay. And so young people are fed up with that. They're just fed up with it. Some people were opportunists, you're right. And they just saw it as an opportunity for personal gain. But it started with them, with the young people that were there revolting.
I want to say something about that topic, especially because I was in Delaware when all of that happened. And I submitted a very detailed proposal of how to prepare for the protest, especially after protesting all summer long in Puerto Rico. But every March 1st, I also participate in the protests that we do in Puerto Rico and around the world, actually, when we want to protest for workers' rights. And there is always going to be some sort of damage, and you have to prepare for that. But damage doesn't always come from the people that are actually protesting. Sometimes the people that is not convenient for them to have the narrative be told in its totality, who insert themselves in there and start creating the chaos for others to see the opportunity to continue the chaos. And that's not a conspiracy theory. It's something that is facts and is constantly gets proven. So when you are preparing a protest, you need to make sure that you have watchers, that you gather your businesses of where it is that you're telling the people that you're going to protest, and tell those businesses to prepare their business, to bore up. You need to create the space for people to get angry at and write or graffiti if they want to. You saw that in Puerto Rico during the summer. The businesses and the homes around the area of protest said, you could go ahead, write on my wall. It's fine, we'll paint it. Here, they will write, tell me how you feel, and left that board there. So protesting is not new. It's something that's been done for years and centuries. So as activists, it is our responsibility to make sure that when we gather, we call the people to come and voice their feeling, march for something, that we also prepare for the worst. The city of Wilmington decided not to take part of an organized event, but rather get snipers, block the police station and put more police presence instead of the mayor had the opportunity to really join the people, to be a leader, to take a part of it, to have an actual plan, an action to follow. And they decided not to do it. So shame on our city officials for actually saying, oh, we're not going to do that. We're going to let people do what they're going to do. And then we're going to go out and we're going to get on TV and we're going to say they did it wrong and shame on them. And this is not how you go out there and voice your opinion. No, that's what you need the people to do. So we talk about what happened rather than what is happening with police brutality, what we need to do in order to change it and move forward. So come on, today, if you go to the police station, those barricades are still there. If you go today to the City of Wilmington Police Station, it is still there. The City of Wilmington is still letting their citizens know the police is not welcome for conversation. We're not going to change anything. We're still going to do what we do, how we do it, because we think we know it best. And you just have to deal with it. So it is up to us to continue to force the conversation and to continue to make people uncomfortable. Because if you don't make people uncomfortable, they're not going to address the issue.
Right. Excellent.
I want to just respond quickly to that, and then I'm going to let you go because I know we're running out of time. I just want to say from a more intimate perspective, I do know that Chief Tracy, as well as Mayor Michael Przicki, are in conversations about sensitivity training. So I can say that all elected officials and public servants are not interested about, bringing change to police brutality, and the handling of folks when they're being arrested. So, again, Derek Chauvin and George Floyd changed the world forever. The wheel turns slow, but it is turning. And so I just wanted to add that in and say some folks really do want to bring about change here in Delaware. I really believe that.
Hey, ladies. So I'm going to give you ladies a couple of minutes each to say any closing comments. You got any upcoming activities, upcoming events? You want people to be involved with your movement? How can they contact you? Any words of encouragement? Please feel free to do so. So let's start off with Maria.
So, for anyone that is an activist that is watching this, I give you a hug. I know that we're tired. We work very hard. Sometimes we don't hear thank you, and that, so thank you for all that you do. And I personally appreciate it. For the people that are thinking about how can I get involved, or do I need to be as crazy as Maria in order to do something? No, you don't. Sometimes all you have to do is maybe share information. Look out for opportunities to educate yourself, make sure that all the information is there, have the conversations, or sometimes you might have to support an organization. So, right, like in Delaware, you could support Network Delaware. And the 15th of this month, we are going to have a Journey for Change Agents. So you could go to networkdelaware.org, and you're going to be able to find the link to sign up. And we're going to start having workshops for people that just want to level up the leadership skills and get more involved within the communities.
Great. Rachelle, take us home.
Well, again, I say thank you again so much, Omar Showtime, for allowing me this time, this platform, and this voice here on your show. I appreciate you. I certainly absolutely give honor and respect to Maria Beauchamp for all of the advocacy and the work that she does, and her amazing story that she told me tonight. Like, I really didn't know that. And so I tip my hat to you, Maria. And I just would close out by saying, every Saturday, 1 o'clock, and every Wednesday, starting tomorrow evening at 7 o'clock, You can watch me, you can join in, be a part of the conversation, you know, Facebook Live for the Political Power Hour on Wednesdays. And then my commentary and fiery opinions every Saturday at 1 o'clock at WHGE, Facebook, YouTube, Spotify, Anchor, you name it. Just Google my name and it'll just pop right up. So yeah, just come on and join me, folks. Come on in on the conversation.
Okay, ladies, you two are two awesome guests. I definitely appreciate you, and happy Women's History Month to the both of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you.
Take care. God bless.
Bye.